Lynette, Latoya, I
Yes.
would like you to talk a little bit about the meeting you went to yesterday because I think it is so very important. Tell them what it is and then what kind of the information you got off that because that's critical and important to the people that we serve and the people in the city of Milwaukee.
So we went to the mayor's meeting on the security perimeter of the RNC convention. On when they have their protests, they're going to have a soft perimeter where opposing protesters can come and speak their voice as well. And then they'll have a hard perimeter where only the DNC allows people to come past that point. And so in the soft perimeter, we were trying to get clear because they said they want everybody's name and they're going to do a background check on them. And if you have ever protested and got arrested for doing, something harmful in a protest, then you won't be able to come. So I asked the question. So on if you're going to be checking, doing background checks on everybody in the soft perimeter, with those that went to that 2020 what
It was the
one
January 6th insurrection.
insurrection, January the 6th, would you be disallowing them to come as well because they basically dang near took over our capital, and they said no, they won't be holding them accountable for that. So I felt like that was really a slap in the face to us in this city, because you're telling us that anybody in our city that has been arrested for doing a violent act in a protest can't come, but they can come
But
and
here's the difference between the two that I see. There was an insurrection, an actual insurrection
right,
against our government. The protests that happened across the state of Wisconsin and across the country were acts of protests for brutality. It wasn't to take over our government. It
right.
was just asking for the rights to be treated fairly, to be treated with justice. And I think it's two different things and how they look at us compared to how they
Hmm.
look at them. And I'm not, and us doesn't mean black or brown. It means the common people, the everyday people, compared to people who actually do start the trouble. Again, this is just our opinions, each individual opinions, but we
Right.
really want people to start going to these meetings, hearing what
Hmm.
they have to say. They will, every block meeting, um, what other organizational meeting, try to go to as many
Oh,
as you have because they will eventually give you information you want.
oh, and another thing. So they're going to have 4,000 police officers
Uh,
um there. We have roughly 1,600 police officers in the city of Milwaukee, which all of them can't be there because you still have to police our city. So we asked them, because they said that they banned for this convention the use of the body cams for those other officers to release the footage within the 48 hours to 14 days of any incident. And we asked them, did they even ask these other police districts, did they, if they did wear body cams, can they at least ask them, would they agree to you know doing that? Because if you think about it, if we got 1,600 police officers here, we're going to have at least 3,600 of them, or not better, here policing this RNC.
so,
So that means whatever happens, they don't have to be accountable to us for.
well, there's the rules that the Milwaukee Police Department have to follow and their guidelines,
Yes.
and then there's other officers. I know Glendale has, they have requested a couple of Glendale officers, but they don't have to abide by the rules of
Of Milwaukee,
of
right.
what Milwaukee police officers are doing. So, and this is what they said. So, whether we know for true, not, this is just the interpretation of us hearing that information. But it's something to think on. And I think our next guest, once we go through who he is, he may have some enlightening comments on that. Um, well, we're going to start with how we do every interview. Um, Introduce yourself.
Well, thank you, and good morning, everybody. I'm Bob Bauman. I'm 4th District Alderman in the city of Milwaukee, member of the Common Council. I basically represent downtown Milwaukee
Okay.
and the near west side. So the comments you have just
Hold on,
made.
hold on.
Oh,
We
oh,
don't. We ain't going there yet.
all right, not going there yet. Fair enough.
Yeah, we
And
have to ask you the question that we ask every single person that comes on this show when in their respective areas. What does an alderman do?
the
You should
alderman,
know because you.
the-
How long have you been in there?
20 years.
Okay,
It'll be
so
20 years
if
in
you
April.
can't answer this question, I don't know.
Well, we do a lot. We are the legislative body for the city of Milwaukee. So we pass ordinances, we introduce and pass resolutions. A resolution is basically a legislative file that directs someone to do something. For example, take a case of Department of Public Works. We introduce a resolution directing the Department of Public Works to install a stop sign at a
Okay.
particular corner. So it can be very routine, mundane matters or very significant matters. Direct the Department of Public Works to build a streetcar system. I mean, and that was done via resolution back in 2015 when we did vote on developing the HOP streetcar. So that's one thing. Ordinances are, of course, laws of general application. They become part of the city's code of ordinances. They are what you think they are. They are laws that the city of Milwaukee is entitled to enact. The most significant of which are probably the city zoning code,
Right.
which is where the council has a great deal of influence and authority over issues of land use, real estate development, licensing. That's really the core functions that the council provides. We have relatively little oversight over police and fire
Mhm.
because under the state statutes, that authority primarily rests with the Fire and Police Commission, although that authority has been diminished thanks to Act 12, which was passed in June, which was a pretty broad legislation that the state legislature passed, which, among other things, enabled us to enact the sales tax. But there was a lot more in Act 12, including stripping the Fire and Police Commission of certain of its authorities and powers to oversee MPD. And then, of course, the chiefs of police and the chiefs of the fire departments have tremendous power under state statute. So we have relatively little ability to regulate and direct MPD, how they function, how they provide their services, other than through the budget. And of course, that's a major function that the council is involved in, and that is debating and ultimately approving the city budget, which
Okay.
is done in every fall, roughly November. And then we have a lot of administrative matters. I like to use the sort of the metaphor, the comparison. We have a big mayor
Mhm.
that's mayor of the entire city, but we also have 15 small mayors
Mhm.
because each alderman, each alderwoman has significant discretion over activities that take place in their district.
Okay.
And I think it's good that it works that way because all districts, many of the districts are very different. You have districts on the outskirts of the city, which are relatively suburban in style,
Mhm.
big wide highways, relatively new subdivisions, big box shopping malls. And then you have districts in the center part of the city, which are much more traditional, small lots, old housing stock, uh, much more traditional neighborhoods. You have South Side neighborhoods that are different than North Side neighborhoods that are different than Latino neighborhoods. So I think it's good that aldermen come from their district, they know their territory, their neighbors know who they are. Oftentimes, an alder person will have had community involvement in their
Mhm.
district before they ran for office, so they have name recognition and people know of them, and that's pretty much what we do. So legislative function, budgetary function, administrative function, and a significant impact over zoning, land use, real estate development, the built environment, and infrastructure.
Now
Hey, you said it the
this is
best.
not we are not endorsing anybody, but that
No.
was probably between a couple of other people who are on the council also really knew what the job was.
That was great.
One of the focuses that we've been doing right now is to let people, this is not a a gotcha moment here. This is letting people know who their representatives are, who's on the ballot, get a little insight on who they are.
Mhm.
And then the knowledge that, you know, people have, letting them know, like, I can take care of this. I can feel comfortable with that particular person, you know, uh, representing me. You have been in for, you said 20 years?
20 years. And I'll just finish out the biography real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah.
I mean, I've lived in my current home for 27 years on the corner of 29th and Kilbourne. So I live in the heart of the west side of my district. Before I was elected in 2004, I was a practicing attorney, a solo practitioner, which meant I had a one person office. My office was at,
Did you make any money?
uh, well, occasionally.
Okay. I was just wondering because, you know, there's a lot of lawyers here,
I
but they
didn't
don't
because
make
I
no money.
represented a lot of people who didn't have a lot of money. I was sort of a soft touch in a lot of cases. I wouldn't call it outright charity work, but I did a lot of work that
Pro bono
people
people who
couldn't
couldn't
afford to pay the full rate, and
But
You
so
had a
know they
sliding
needed it.
I
scale.
was willing to accept what they were able to pay,
Right.
and what not as much as a lot of lawyers make, not as much as the ones you see on TV advertising personal injury cases, but I did criminal defense. I did real estate work. I did some employment work, some employment discrimination, Title VII work under the 64 Civil Rights Act, uh, some free speech work. I had some very interesting cases involving First Amendment, involving a guy that many of you may know, Michael Bonds. He was a former
Mhm.
school director, president of the school board. He'd worked for the city, for the school board, for the county in various capacities. And he generated some very interesting cases over the course of his career. And I handled two of them that were quite interesting. So 14 years as a practicing lawyer, and then during the 1980s, I owned and operated a startup business that remanufactured railroad passenger cars. So sort of a heavy manufacturing company at 37th and Villard, so in the North Milwaukee neighborhood. And then in the late 70s, I worked for a law firm. I graduated from law school in Chicago, Northwestern University, and
Okay.
my undergrad
So you had to
college
take
was
the
at Marquette.
bar too.
I did have to take
Okay.
the bar
Oh,
exam in Wisconsin. Huh? Absolutely correct. Very good. So, but living in the neighborhood and having spent most of my professional life either living downtown, I've lived in my district for 36 years.
Okay.
And part of it was on the east side of the district, but the bulk of it was on the west side. And I mean, it's part of me. I know it like the back of my hand. I've spent most of my adult life between the lakefront and 35th Street and between the freeway and Valete.
So what do you
hold
feel
on,
your
let's get
community needs?
make sure our callers know
Oh, okay.
414-444-5250. If you have questions for the alderman, give us a call.
Yeah,
What did you
I can speak to the security
go
issue
ahead?
that you mentioned with the RNC very directly because on Monday, I'm chair of the Public Works Committee.
Okay.
And last week, the administration, Mayor Cavalier Johnson's administration, brought a file to us, an ordinance, which directly deals with the issue of protesting and First Amendment expression in connection with the RNC. Part of what you just talked about and what this meeting you attended yesterday was about. We had concerns with that ordinance. We did not recommend it for passage. And one of the concerns raised by basically the entire committee was, well, are we going to allow organizations to obtain permits for either the speaker's platform or the parade route who have a record of hate speech?
Mhm.
Are we going to let the Nazi Party come in here in March? Are we going to let the Proud Boys come in here in March, whose leaders have been convicted of federal crimes and are serving time as we speak?
Mhm.
Are we going to allow the KKK to come in here with their flags and costumes? And the administration, first they said, well, yes, we're going to have a review and we're going to be able to review their background and their history of protesting and whether they've been convicted of crimes or whether there's been any record of that type. And then they said, well, it's right here in the ordinance. And I said, well, I read the ordinance. I didn't see that. And they're going through it. Oh, we forgot to put that in there.
Mhm.
So the bottom line is we held the matter and it's going to be heard again Monday, this Monday at
Yes.
9 a.m. It's a public hearing. Anybody out there who has concerns about this issue, come down to that hearing. We'll give you a forum. We'll give you a platform. You can say your piece, just like what you were talking about.
Can you tell them again where it is and what time
City
it is?
Hall, room 301B at 9 a.m. Monday,
Okay.
March 18th.
18th. Yeah.
So when we talk about be a voice, this is one of your times to be a voice, making sure that your city is safe, that your city doesn't have destructive individuals who are coming to personally harm you
Mhm.
here. Um, you have let's talk about some of the work you've done. I always ask these questions. What is the number? Well, let me ask you that later. What are some of the things this term you want to take care of?
Well, I want
Or
to continue my work on creating stable and affordable housing, which I think is critical for neighborhood stability, for family stability,
Mhm.
for families' ability to raise their families, for kids to get a good start in life, get a good education.
are you
Stable,
look
affordable housing is key. And one of the, go ahead.
in one of those? Are you looking for stable and affordable housing in your district, or your
Really
district
citywide,
plus across
Okay,
across
citywide?
the city,
okay,
right? Yeah,
Okay.
because
okay.
half of my district has extremely stable housing and
Hmm.
extremely high-end housing, namely
Yes.
downtown Prospect Avenue, the Third Ward. We don't need affordable. Well, actually, we are putting affordable housing in many of those high-end neighborhoods because I think
Hmm.
it is important to mix housing types and
Diversity.
mixed diversity of
Diversity.
incomes.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And in fact, my aldermanic district today has the highest number of affordable housing units in the city.
Yes.
After after April 2nd, I'll be number two because I'm losing the Merrill Park neighborhood, and that means I lose the Merrill Park senior housings, and so
Okay.
that lowers my number. But I have about 2,400 affordable housing units now, and those are spread across the city, including many downtown. There's a lot of older buildings downtown built in the 60s and 70s that primarily cater to seniors, and those are in fact very affordable.
Hmm.
And right next to very high price, within a block or two of apartments charging $2,000, $3,000 for a two-bedroom apartment. So
I,
there is a mix of income downtown, but it's the traditional central city neighborhoods that our housing programs have been mainly focused on. I'll give you one example: the Homes MKE program. The city got about $294 million in American Rescue Plan money back in the fall of 2021. We allocated 43 million for housing programs.
Hmm.
And of that 43 million, 15 million went to what's called the Homes MKE program, which basically is a program to rehabilitate 150 city-owned one and two family homes that the city took through tax foreclosure. Now, a lot of these properties were severely blighted. They're vacant. They're boarded up. Some have fire damage. A lot of times the neighborhood wants the houses demolished. And my argument has always been a lot of these houses have good bones. They're very well
Hmm.
constructed. All they need is some rehabilitation, and they can provide fairly affordable housing at a fraction of the cost of building new housing.
what?
So we're
How much?
rehabbing these 150 properties at $100,000 a piece, which we could have never done without the federal money. So President Biden, he talks about not getting enough credit. He's right. He's not getting enough credit for a lot
Hmm.
of these programs because I know the American Rescue Plan monies that the city received literally bailed out two of our budgets and enabled us to avoid significant layoffs of fire, police, and general city employees, which would really have harmed quality of life and the safety of the city. We were able to use those funds to bridge those budgets until Act 12 came along with the additional shared revenue and the sales tax revenue, which I know was a controversial issue. And yes, nobody wants to pay more taxes, but they also want to keep their fire department,
Hmm.
and they also want to keep their libraries open, and they also want so those things do
It's a
require
catch.
revenue.
Yeah. Going back to how much of the rehab has been, do you know? You may not know, but how much of the 150 houses rehab has started, or are they in the process of it? And
That's an excellent question, and that's always the devil in the details: execution of a program.
right,
We can
that's
pass a
why I'm asking.
program,
Hmm.
and we have ribbon, we have fanfare and press conferences, and we're going to spend this amount on this, and it's going to be great. And then, well, everything then kind of breaks down and never actually happens. We bird dog that because we created a committee back in 2009 called the Joint Committee on the Rehabilitation of Abandoned and Foreclosed Homes, and that is I'm the chair. A couple of other alder persons are on it. We also have neighborhood services on it, Department of City Development on it, the Housing Authority is on it, the Block Grant Administration. And the purpose of that committee is to basically oversee all the programs that have been created in the housing arena. And we have completed about 5 of the MKE, of the homes, MKE homes up to this point. Several are occupied by their new owners. There's probably a good 20 or 30 in progress, actual physical progress. So that's good. But it does take time to gear
Mhm.
up these programs. That has to be acknowledged. It takes time to gear up the staff, to prepare specifications, to find developers who want to take on the project, to make sure all the accountability is in place because it is public money, and you can't just be writing checks willy-nilly and then the money disappears. So it's more complicated than it sounds, and maybe
Oh,
more complicated than it should be, but the program is working and moving, and there is
Mhm.
actual physical work being performed.
well, one of the things I do know is government. I'm a smaller alderman over in the
Indeed
Glendale
you are,
area,
yes.
but I is there any kind of information you can give some of these developers, some of these contractors? Who can they go to try to get that information so they can be part
Well,
of
they
that?
can start with my office, and we can direct them to the
Okay.
appropriate bureaucrat based on what their specific need is. Because you're right, it can be very daunting. Hello, Department of City Development?
Yeah,
Who do you talk to? Who do you ask for?
Right.
we have
And
a
so
caller.
we
We
can
have a
we can do
caller.
that.
We have a caller. Let's see what they caller. Go ahead. Welcome to Be a Voice, Wisconsin Voices. This is
Oh,
Be a
my bad.
Voice.
I didn't know you
Go
was
ahead.
caller. You're on the air.
Going once.
Caroline? Caroline?
Oh, okay. But one of the things that we really try to push is you have these programs and they're there, but making sure that the people that can actually help with the program, not the own homeowners or people who are going to eventually own these homes, because that'll get out eventually too.
Right.
But having those minority owned businesses, small businesses, all those businesses know how to get in contact with, because that is a wraparound service,
Yes.
because you're giving people a place to live. But if you're using the community
Contractors.
contractors, that helps bring economics to the city, and it's a wraparound service then.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it's not just
And
we're giving money in and you get a
and
house. It's a wraparound service.
most of the developers of the Homes MKE homes are in fact emerging minority developers. Many
Mhm.
of them are graduates of the ACRE program, and I know the Department of City Development was very intentional in making sure that this program not only provided quality housing, but provided capital for small businesses doing housing renovation and housing development. Because
Okay.
it's hard, it's expensive to start up a business like that.
um I'm going to ask you an elephant in a room type question. A lot of times when we've had a lot of candidates come on, and one of the things that people have said is that we focus too much on the downtown, which is your district. um how do you, I mean, what do you want to tell them when it comes to something like that? And I don't want this to be a gotcha
No,
moment, but
I hear those same comments.
right.
I live in the community. I do hear those comments, and I think it's important to lay out the facts and then have people evaluate them and
Mhm.
to see if the facts change their perspective or not, whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
But downtown is the economic engine of Milwaukee. It's 3.3% of the land area, but it's 22% of the tax base. And why is that significant? Because under our system of finance and budgeting, the tax base is the critical component that enables us to maintain and expand public services. Because the amount you pay in property taxes is determined by the tax rate times your property's assessed value. The tax rate is determined by dividing the tax base by the tax levy, or what the city approves as part of the budget for the property tax levy, how much we're going to collect in property taxes. That tax rate under state law is only allowed to move so much.
Right.
And as a result, if the tax base does not grow, it is almost impossible to maintain, much less expand public services. Forget police, that they consume a lot of the city's tax levies, no question about it. But so does the library, so does the health department, so does snow plowing and sanitation. And to maintain and expand those services, if you expand the tax base, you're able to generate more revenue at the same tax rate. I mean, there's moving parts here, but the bottom line is expanding the tax base is critical to maintaining and expanding city services. And the tax base, almost 25% of the city's tax base is downtown. Now
And
we
you
get
have
into
to,
go.
and you have to understand that with the levy from the state, you can only raise your tax levy for
Right.
new net construction.
Exactly, and that's the tax
So,
base. Yeah.
and that's why the new net construction is kind of important, because that raises your tax base. We're going to take a break. We're going to have Alderman Bauman back for a little while. On the other side, Wisconsin Voices, be a voice.
You're listening to Wisconsin Voices Be a Voice Radio. Follow us at BAWI Voice and learn more at wisconsinvoices.org.
Did you know that voter education includes women and men who are currently incarcerated? While they cannot vote, the fact is they have family and friends who can vote. Expo has been contacting these men and women with accurate information on who is eligible to vote. At Expo's People in Politics events, we engage our local communities in discussing important issues. We educate the people in our community on what unlock the vote means and how voter disenfranchisement disproportionately impacts people of color, excluding thousands of people in Wisconsin from voting. Expo has trainings on state budget process and how legislation is crafted and passed. For more information, please visit our website at expowisconsin.org. And remember, you have a right not to remain silent.
You're listening to WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee.
You are now listening to Wisconsin Voices, Be a Voice Radio.
Hold on, we are back with Be a Voice. Wisconsin Voices, Be a Voice. We have a caller. Caller, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Ms. Tamika.
Hi.
And good morning, Milwaukee. Tyrone W. speaking. Glad to be gracing your show and in your presence this day. Wonderful topic of conversation. Good morning, Alderman.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. A couple of different things. Very interesting topic and conversation there. Well, I have to open up by believing and helping a lot of people understand that most people want to buy their homes and their property pretty much galvanized around the fact that there's a residentially good, if not respectable, school district or school, representation in however many schools there are.
You bet. That's a big factor.
And so before you jump in, hear me out, because I need you to understand this. Has any of the for as long as you had any council people invited the governor to come in and have a walkthrough with you at some of these older buildings, maybe about 5 at whatever his time will allow, maybe 5 at a crack, can betterly see where the money can be used more conducively and productively. If not, then bulldoze those under and start fresh, as opposed to paying custodians and janitors to just keep the buildings going and not really, meeting the needs of the children there. Probably better to just go ahead and start from a clean map, bulldoze those under, perhaps, unless I am missing something.
So you're talking about MPS buildings that are underused or empty. Well, that's a big point of contention, and that's going to come up in connection with this referendum where they want to significantly expand increase property taxes, and a lot of people are of mixed opinion. Yes, they want to see quality public schools. Yes, as you point out, quality public schools are essential for keeping people in Milwaukee, because a lot of families with school-age children look at the school alternatives. Private schools are expensive. Some of the choice schools aren't so great either. The MPS seems to be kind of a failing system unless you can get
Right.
into some of the elite schools and specialty schools. So they start looking at the suburbs, where overall public schools seem to be providing a lot higher quality education. So yeah, that's a huge issue. One of the issues is surplus buildings. And I don't know if tearing them down is a solution, but
Okay.
certainly marketing them for development is a
Okay.
solution. And that has been done on a selective basis. There are several, give you one example in my district, 20th and Valete.
Okay.
Take a drive by. They renovated the McKinley Avenue School, the original portion of it built in 1888, a beautiful building. It is now fully restored and is providing 34 units of housing for veterans.
Oh, okay.
And it's a
Okay.
beautiful development. And that's what can be done with these
Right.
surplus MPS school buildings.
Wonderful.
So they
Okay.
have value. I don't know that I would advocate ripping them all down,
Well,
but I
well,
definitely advocate redeveloping the buildings that are no longer needed because they're spending a lot of money on custodians, as
Right.
just you say, keeping them
Absolutely.
heated, keeping them
Right.
secure. Yes.
Right.
But there's we have another caller, but 1 second. There is a lot of organizations that could take this. There it could be repurposed. We don't have a community center that is open. Usually, like we do have community places where the kids can come in, but they usually close at 5 or 6 o'clock. What are kids supposed to do? 7, 8, 9 o'clock. They're on the street, but we hate that the kids are roaming the street. Repurpose some of those buildings. Give me one of them. Wisconsin Voices will do something with it. Give me one of them buildings. We'll do something. We have another caller. Caller, come in. Oops, it's gone. Are they still there?
Mr. Schindler.
That was
Oh,
Mr. Shin.
But I'll give you, can I give you on the
Yeah.
downtown issue? Because, we do have a financing tool called tax incremental financing, which is kind of complicated to get your arms around. But the bottom line is we use the value of downtown real estate and the increase in value of downtown real estate to fund projects outside of downtown. For example, we use the revenue generated from the Park East Tax Incremental District, which is basically where Fiserv Forum is located. We use the revenue from that district to fund street rehabilitation throughout Bronzeville, throughout the Harambee neighborhood, throughout the Halyard Park neighborhood, on the near west side, the traffic calming, the street rehabilitation, affordable housing developments. So we do use the wealth generated by downtown to fund multiple projects in other parts of the city, and in some cases, the poorest parts of the city, because that's where the greatest need is.
Okay,
So
we got
downtown
another
is
caller.
a way of funding services and developments in other areas.
Okay, we have Toya. Is there another call?
2.
All right. We'll get the next caller. Caller,
Hello.
you are on Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices. Go ahead.
Hi. I was listening to him talk about the McKinley school that was renovated, but I'm wondering what kind of money does that generate for the Milwaukee in the school system? That building was renovated by a big realtor conglomerate, and I'm wondering how much of that money would go back to us.
Was that building sold to
The
the?
developer, right?
It was sold to a developer, and
That's
then
right.
And then
And
they
they're buying.
developed the building with their own.
so
resources.
it's a little bit of both. They developed the building, and then you will get property tax. You'll get property taxes off of it, and then part of your property tax does go to school districts and schools. So I guess instead of it just sitting there. Well, I should let you answer.
Well, that's
it.
exactly right. You couldn't have described it any better. As a privately owned building, as it is now, it's generating property taxes, which property taxes are going to MPS, to the city, to the county, to the Metropolitan Sewage District, to all the entities that utilize property tax revenue. So yes, it is benefiting MPS because MPS is collecting taxes that building is generating, when formerly it was generating no income for MPS.
Well, we got one more call we're going to take, and then we're going to go to our next interview. Caller, go ahead. Caller. Welcome to Be a Voice.
You're on the air.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, yes, can you hear me?
Hey, Tim.
Hey, how you doing?
How you
Important
doing?
discussion going on right now. So I wanted to ask
Wait, let's
Ms.
introduce
Strowman.
you first before you do that. This is the co-executive director of Wisconsin Voices. So
Tim
excellent.
Schindler.
Okay.
Hey, thank you for being on today. I just wanted to ask you if you could talk about TIF districts and has the city been using TIF districts to help rebuild communities and try getting more employment and businesses in the city. If you could talk about that, I think that would be great.
Absolutely, 100%. That's been a top priority of mine, and I know it's a top priority of the department. I'll just give you some statistics here. Since 2017, the city has created 27 tax incremental districts, 15 of which have been dedicated to affordable housing in the neighborhoods. Right now, we have 44 out of 66 outstanding. There are 66 tax incremental districts currently operating. Many have been closed out, which is a good thing because then the additional value goes to the tax base. But out of those 66, 44 of them are outside the central business district. So there's some very large tax incremental districts. Century City is probably the most prominent one, where we spent upwards of $30 million to basically acquire, demolish most of the Century City buildings, with the exception of the building Talgo operates, and this is a former A.O. Smith Tower
Yes.
Automotive. The Talgo building was kept, which the city owns and is leasing to the Talgo company that rebuilds rail cars. The office building was retained, and there has been one sort of a new manufacturing building built on the site, but the rest of it is vacant and being marketed heavily.
And the DPW is there too.
At the
as well.
DPW yard on the west side of the railroad tracks, 100%
well,
correct.
you know, that
So,
would
so
be,
that is a good example of a tax incremental district that was directly designed to impact central city neighborhoods, to create jobs, to basically improve housing stock, and it's had challenges. To be honest with you, it's had getting businesses to locate there.
well, Wisconsin Voices may look over there and see what we got going on. One of the things about the TIF district, it is, and I commend because it's hard to get developers to do a TIF district with housing.
Right.
It's very hard for them to do because they don't make as much money to flip that over. So you do have quite a bit of them. I do have to commend that part of it because a lot of developers will not take on that responsibility,
Multi-unit-
especially when it comes to
Actually, multi-unit are easier to finance. What's hard to finance is one
single family homes.
single family and two family.
Right. All right, Alderman, thank you so much. We will see who wins the district.
All right. Well, thanks
And
very much.
if we because we don't endorse, we
Right.
just say, but we would love to have you back because your insight on, if you win, your insight on what's going on downtown does affect the other areas
Totally
of the
agreed.
city.
Understood completely.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Alderman Bob Bauman.
So long, everybody. Have a great weekend.
We'll be
You
right
too,
back
Alderman
with
Bauer.
David King. Doctor, isn't Dr. David King? Doctor. 414-444-5250.
WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee.
Please join Wisconsin Voices every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. We will be focusing on community partnerships, voter education, and long-term collective impact for all Wisconsinites.
You're listening to Wisconsin Voices, Be a Voice Radio. Follow us at BAWI Voice and learn more at wisconsinvoices.org.
Does politics make you feel like you're under attack? Are you tired of feeling hopeless with the current condition of your community? Well, it's time for you to be victorious. It's time to vote. Know your candidates, know who's on the ballot, and know what seats they are running for. Get involved and let's take back our community at the polls.
Wisconsin Voices 3 pillars: protecting democracy, teaching advocacy, building community.
WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee.
Welcome back to Be a Voice, Wisconsin Voices. Be a Voice. Keon.
Yeah.
Now, Keon saying that I have these facial expressions.
Yeah, you and a few other people.
But here's the thing. I wish people would stop trying to interpret what they think I'm thinking from an expression.
It's called profiling, baby. You can do it. And I love how women try to do that. You know, the FBI and everybody else profile because there's certain features and facial expressions, and it's just
But
know,
you
anger.
still
looks
don't
like
know. I'm not angry. I'm
just
just saying.
So the best way is to leave it off your face.
But no, I just look at this is my face.
You didn't have to say.
Look, this is my face. I am not.
Shoot. Now he got the.
It's because of the hat.
Yeah,
it's the hat.
You see the hat got him on it
It's
today.
We gonna go back to business at hand. Brian, you awfully quiet today.
Yes.
What you doing?
I was just waiting for the political interviews to finish up, but I'm happy. I feel good. I just learned a lot from Mr. Ballman. He had a lot of information. I'm just sitting here like, just trying to take it all in. I think it's important to get out there and really us go down there and hear what's going on and speak your voice and be a voice with the Monday meeting down at City Hall. So I thought that was really important.
We have our next guest who is running to in the mayoral race, Dr. David King. Welcome back to our show. And I want to be clear with people. We are not paying favorites or anything. We originally had people who were on the primary ballot. The people that went through the primary ballot will get a chance because they're on the general ballot. So we're not playing favorites or anything, but anybody who made it through the primary had an opportunity to come back on. I sent emails to everybody who was on the ballot, seeing if everybody from comptrollers to judges, all of them. So, and I all they had to do was give me their 3 available times, and I slid them in when there was an available time. So, Doctor, I just keep saying,
getting nervous.
Why are you getting nervous? Dr. King, you are back. You made it through the primary.
Yes.
Now, and I think you have still a 3-man, well, sort of. It's Mayor Cavalier Johnson who's on the ballot, and you're running to unseat him. And then I think you have a write-in candidate.
We do.
With Aisha Griffin. She said that she filed to be a write-in candidate. Oh. So you still have the same issues, but you're going to promote yourself. So what did you learn in the primary? What did you learn so far? Because we kind of know a little bit about you, but we're going to go in and you can introduce yourself again. But what I want to know is, what have you learned have you found some things that changed your mind on what you were running for, how you were running, a different way of seeing things as you talked to people and you were getting through the primary?
The only thing that I learned through this, because I knew everything that comes with it, is that the people in power don't want the city people, the residents of Milwaukee, to understand the power of local races. Mm-hmm. And that even with our primary, it was nothing really said about the primary. Some people didn't even know there was a primary. So to keep information from people, I found out was one of the saddest things, because a lot of people didn't know that there was a primary. A lot of people didn't know that the local races is the most powerful race in your life. You know, they so focused and they advertise Trump and Biden that they won't even talk about the local races. They won't talk about, you know, this is where your decision made when it comes to your taxes. You got judges that's going to, you know, deal with your loved ones. They won't push local races like they push the state races and the federal races. And it's sad because a lot of people don't know, or they didn't know. And even now you don't hear 4, 6, 12, 58 talking about the mayoral race, the most important race in the city. They won't talk about it. They steady pushing something else. So people started asking, why are they doing that to us? I said, because they don't want you to take control back. So if we don't push you to go out, that's why even in the primary, out of 296,582 registered voters, only 30,000 voted.
That's kind of good for a primary.
Yeah.
Because that for a local election primary, because usually it's a little bit lower than that.
Yes.
And that's how they know they're winning.
Right.
Is they know how to have those certain sets of groups within their communities that they can go to and make sure that they go out and vote, and leave it quiet where others are misinformed or underinformed on voting.
Yes.
We have to make sure that the people, they categorize us as voters. You know, the people who do these campaigns, or they categorize as voters, a likely voter, unlikely voter, unregistered voter. We want to make sure that everybody, at least the work that we're doing here at Wisconsin Voices, that everyone, our goal is to have everyone as a likely voter. You know, we want everybody, so they have to pay attention. And especially during presidential and gubernatorial, if we yeah, what did you say, Latoya?
We should start saying likely boss, because they really are their bosses.
We are the
we
bosses.
really need to get people to start understanding that we are their bosses. This is their interview process. So you need to start paying attention and asking the right questions for these interview processes, because I don't want somebody to work for me that don't know what they're doing or incapable of being responsible for the duties that they are applying for. So hey.
I just these are so important, because don't just let it seem like incumbents got to work for their jobs too. But also, this is how I've always felt. Incumbents have to work for their job. They have to make sure that they're doing the job that they signed up to do. But I also feel like people who run have to show why the incumbent isn't doing their job, and what are you going to do differently than they are. So I guess that is what my question to you is. What are you going to do, or what you want to do that's different than the status quo right now? And make your case of why people should vote for you and not your opponents.
Okay, well, if we look at crime, right, we have to look at what's the cause of, where's the root cause of crime, and we know it's dealing with social issues. We know with the drug overdose, the mental illness, the homelessness. We know that we have to get in there and roll up our sleeves without cameras and go in our communities and work it out. When you're talking about economic development, right? We're not talking about economic development downtown. We need economic development in our communities, right? We just saw Walgreens close. Nobody ever talked about bringing CVS over here or any other pharmacy over here. We have to make sure that the elderly is taken care of and they got their medication. We got too many buildings on the outside of downtown that's empty, that businesses can go in there. I heard you say earlier, give us a building. We can do some work in those.
Oh, we'll say that again. Give Wisconsin Voices a building. We will make it a community building.
Exactly. I mean, these are the things that being a person that I am, who's worked in the community for over 20 and 30 years, we know what's needed. I love the Running Rebels. Victor is a good friend of mine, but the Running Rebels can't do everything for our children. We need other organizations that can do something, give them a building, let them do some things. Because like you said, what about after 6:30? What about 7 o'clock? Can they go somewhere? And now our children are involved in the human trafficking. We got to intercept that. So there's a lot of things by me being from the hood, from the community, from working, helping them get jobs, from helping them get off drugs, from stopping them from committing suicide, from helping single moms get a place to live, plus understanding the business aspect. Because one of the things they're not talking about, the COVID money is ran out. What our city gonna look like now with no COVID money?
But that's and that's what I'm saying. Does this 2% help because there is a sales tax? But I guess what is your solution to doing to since the COVID money, you said the COVID money ran out or is going to run out, I should say.
Yeah.
What is your solution?
Well, okay.
Because I agree with Tamika. What is your solution? Because whether we had COVID money or not, we still got to run our city.
Right. And what we have to do is we have to look at every department and look at where we wasting money. It's just like your house. If your money get tight at home, you look at cable and you look at Wi-Fi. You look at which one is more important, right? And you say, okay, my Wi-Fi is more important because I can do my work. I can do that, cutting cable, right? So you also look at it and say, okay, I go out and eat all the time. I'm gonna have to slow down. So we have to look at our city and say where we're wasting money at, and says, you know what, that we ain't got no business wasting that money over here. And then by us mismanaging, we think the solution is telling people we're going to raise taxes. That's not the solution. That's just giving you more money to mismanage. So we have to look at it and say, where is the waste is? Where the waste, and how do we get the best bang for our bucks?
I have to ask a question because so you are saying that you would work, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. So that's the comptroller's job to a point. To look at, well, from what I understand, the comptroller looks at what your budget is,
right,
and then make sure that you are fiscally responsible within your budget. So are you saying that the Common Council needs to work more with the comptroller?
Well, not just the Common Council. The mayor is the CEO, so he has to look at every department that's under his control to make sure that they're not wasting.
But what I'm saying is he makes a budget.
Right.
But the budget is not passed unless the budget is passed by the Common Council, and they can cut things, add things, do what they need to do. So I mean, and I don't want to put words in them. It seems like you're saying that the fiscal oversight has to be with the comptroller, whoever that will be, and working with the Common Council to make sure you look and see where the waste is.
Right. And the thing about it is, it takes all of us, the comptroller, the mayor, the Common Councils, and the head of departments. We all got to sit down and look at the money and say, okay, why are you spending this much money on labor here? Okay, you got to look at the labor, you got to look at everything. And then why are we giving contracts to somebody over here that ain't even finished the job over here? You know, we have to look at everything.
Yeah, that's I'm kind of going off the question Tamika said, because the comp controller is the one that actually goes through there and really prioritize what is the waste, what are we the overseers,
right,
and they will take out what they need and see what departments are doing really what they're supposed to do. So are you saying if you become mayor that you're going to work really close with the comp controller to make sure that and then you'll be bringing other departments and other aldermen in when you're trying to find out where's the waste,
right? And you have to do that. Even if you're the CEO of a company and you have a chief financial officer, you got to work together to look at how, at the bottom line, do we have a plus or a minus?
Right.
Profit or loss. We have to look at it, right? So as mayor, yes, I want to work closely with the comptroller and then closely with the aldermen and say, hey, listen, do y'all think we should take it from here or do we need to take it from over here? Okay, which is the most important area?
Or do we need it at all?
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
exactly. So those are the things that those are the things as a CEO, you have to sit down and you gotta look at everything and you gotta say, okay, the why. And then when you ask that why, the comptroller should be able to tell you why. And then the aldermen, if that money's going in their district or to a department, they all in agreement with that much going over there when they last year wasted, let's say, $4.5 million. Okay, so we have to look at it. Do we need to do that?
All right, thank you. This is Wisconsin Voices. This is Be a Voice.
With
Thank you,
Wisconsin
Keon,
Voices.
Latoya, Brian, and our special guest, Dr. David King. See you on Monday.